The Sri Lankan cabinet has decided to delay paying the salaries of certain state sector employees by up to a week. It's due to the worsening financial situation. Last week, the government said the economic crisis this year would be worse than expected, with all ministries ordered to make a 5% reduction in spending. Well, our South Asia regional editor, Ambarasan Ethirajan, has been following this for us. So just in terms of who's being targeted in this delay in getting their salaries, who are we talking about?
The government says that mostly managers and people in executive roles, probably in thousands of people, because the overall workforce in the government sector is about 1.5 million workers. Now, government says that the salaries will be only delayed by a few days or even up to a week. What is more important here is it shows the financial situation of the Sri Lankan government. To give credit to the current administration of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, in the last 6 months, they managed to bring in food and fuel, even though the fuel was rationed, but they managed to stabilize the situation. But without additional assistance coming from outside, they are now struggling because the economy shrank by nearly 8%, more than 8%. And as a result, the government's revenue did not come up as expected, which means the government's expenditure is more, but the revenue was very low. And that's why they're taking various measures like cutting down on expenditure of various ministries. And now they're finding ways how we can pay salaries to these huge amount of workforce.
You talk about outside help. The International Monetary Fund is meant to be giving them a bailout loan. Is the government meeting the criteria? Because it's quite tough criteria.
There are two things here. One, even though in September, the IMF has had a staff-level agreement to provide nearly $3 billion loan to Sri Lanka, they had set out certain conditions, for example, like reforms, tax reforms, and reducing the number of workforce in the government sector, trimming the services, and also removing certain subsidies. On the other hand, Sri Lanka's main problem is about its debt. It's more than $46 billion debt. And the IMF wanted most of the creditors, like bilateral creditors like India, China, and Japan, to have a restructuring plan with the Sri Lankan government, how they are going to have a restructuring work and how they're going to repay the money, a debt sustainability plan, and then they can release the money. Now, Sri Lanka is at the moment talking with India and China. They say that they've already reached an agreement with Japan. So that is the bottleneck. Until they reach a clear-cut plan with these international creditors, they're not going to get the IMF money. Now, why the IMF money is important, even though it's only about $3 billion, this would allow Sri Lanka to go to World Bank, to Asian Development Bank, to say, no, we have got a plan now, give us money, and then it will help us to revive the economy at least in 2024. And that is why the IMF money is very key.
And Ambarasan, in a sentence or two, if you would, the people that will not be, these executives that you describe, who won't be getting their salaries imminently, what reaction?
People are, very worried about what's going to happen. You have mortgage payments, you have other loan commitments. Don't forget, there's already the cost of living has gone up in Sri Lanka. People have been borrowing money and spending. But again, this is only for a few days or up to a week, which it clearly sends out a message that the government is not able to manage its own expenditure.
Ambarasan Ethirajan, our South Asia regional editor, thank you very much for talking us through it. Thank you.